Greetings sailors and welcome to a new year and also an old favourite because it is I playing HMS Nelson, and this isn't the most recent game but still recent enough that I can play it on the current patch's client, fortunately. I think this is actually from the previous patch. It's one of those rare instances when replays from a previous patch will play on the current client, which is a good thing because the thing with just all the replays not working is still, as far as I know, very much an issue. So this is, right off the bat, very good matchmaking. And there are some ships on the enemy team I have to worry about, but on the whole, I can actually be reasonably aggressive here. I mean, obviously I still need to watch out for torpedoes, and there are still some of the enemy battleship guns that can citadel me from any angle, but by far the worst of it is, I think, the enemy Synop, and the Gneiss now can also punch through my armour, theoretically, but it's only got 6 guns and not the best accuracy. So between the survivability of this ship and the lack of carrier, this should be a relatively good time. However, you know, there's always one's own teammates to take into consideration, and so you can probably guess right from the start that this is not just going to be some kind of ruffle stomp, because I don't tend to feature those kind of matches on my channel. They're generally not that interesting, and there have even been cases when I've had a particularly high amount of damage but just have never bothered saving or recording a replay because it just wasn't an interesting game. So this one hopefully will be at least somewhat interesting. So there's definitely some kind of enemy destroyer over here, but I know the cap is currently free, and so I'm going to just try poking my nose through this gap and pinging away at whatever I can. And you might notice I'm making extensive use of the AP here, especially top tier. The armor piercing, you know, these are 16-inch guns, the armor piercing can be very effective, but also that can happen. It doesn't have the best penetration for 16-inch AP, it really doesn't. So when you get those kind of bounces on a fully broadside ship at less than 12 kilometers, it's a little bit vexatious, but that can happen in a lot of ships. I will also use some HE later on, but I think for the majority of this game I do in fact use AP. It takes a little while for any of the really good shots to happen. So we now know that there's definitely 2 destroyers here. The Gremiashi's opened fire at me and another one's been spotted, so that means the other 2 are probably on the other side, but I think there's one that's definitely unaccounted for at the moment. This Gneiss now is I'm not sure what they're doing exactly. It looks like they're trying to push the 1 line. It's giving me lots of potentially nice shots on the broadsides as they do it, so I'm not going to complain too much, but none of them have been particularly chunky so far. I think that's been the best of them at, what was that, just under 9k, so not terrible, but you know, not exactly brilliant either. You may have also noticed that our starting cap is actually getting flipped, so that accounts for that remaining enemy destroyer, and as we are down on points, that's actually not too great. That's someone that's decided to be a bit sneaky, and we don't really have anyone in a great position to go back and defend right now, so they might well take that, and they're definitely taking the D cap as well, which is looking like we're going to be put at a real disadvantage, and indeed the team over at the D cap doesn't seem to be doing that well. We've actually got another one of our tier 7s over there, the Nagato, and I think it's at an Oklahoma and a Koenig as well. So 3 of our battleships and a destroyer. This is a fairly significant part of our team. So if they go down, that's actually going to be trouble, potentially. This Gneiss now, meanwhile, I have no idea. Absolutely no idea whatsoever. They've just charged forwards, and if we're going to lose our Nagato on the other flank, at least we'll have traded and taken out the Gneiss now. I can only assume this Gunai's now was doing this on purpose and was just charging forwards, trying to get a bit of damage and then hoping to go into battle in another ship. I don't know. This was before winter, this was before the snowflakes, so it certainly wasn't for that purpose. I really cannot say what their motivation was. That's actually, while I'm on the subject, I want to actually give Wargaming a little bit of praise for that, because in previous years you've needed a win to get the winter snowflakes, and this time round you just need to reach, was it 300 base XP? So instead of grinding a bunch of them in co-op as I did last time, this time I have just decided I'm going to do them all in random battles. We actually have a fair amount of time to do it as well. Also, I could swear they had a Synop, but maybe I'm completely making that up. Maybe it was just the Gunais now that had the guns big enough. Florida certainly doesn't. Florida's got 14-inch guns. I really don't have to worry about that. And I've actually decided to use a bit of high explosive here just because I felt it might be a bit more reliable damage-wise at this angle, just in terms of setting fires and actually trying to do a bit of damage. Now, I'm mostly focusing on him, but there is that Koenig coming up alongside as well, but my allies have taken him out, so fortunately, I mean, this flank overall is doing okay, but the other flank, certainly not so much, and with 3 caps under their control, our team is really not doing so well. And there we go, we just lost to Oklahoma as well, so that just now leaves the Koenig over there. So very soon, all that's going to be left of our team is the ships that are around me right here. The one kind of thing we've got going in our favour is that one of their ships is fully AFK. The October Revolution never moved or loaded into battle, so that RNG though. So they are a ship down, and it's a battleship as well, and that, I'll tell you right now, that's just going to end up being a free kill for us. So we do get that number of victory points back at least, but otherwise we're going to have to work hard to bring this back. Fortunately for me, I am at least in a good position to do that. I'm in a top tier, healthy battleship with a very good heal and large guns. So there goes the Florida. There's no point in me healing yet, but what there is some point in doing is getting caps, because we really need to stem the bleeding, as it were, to prevent this from just being a loss to the enemy team on points. So there we go, there's the October Revolution. I'm actually not going to fire at them as much as I could have. I could have farmed more damage from them for sure. I do get some damage from them, of course, but I decide to concentrate on the things that are actually going to try and fire back at me for the most part, and leave that mostly to my allies, particularly the Jervis. You know, it's just going to be a free kill for the Jervis. It's quite easy to get all of your singles drop torpedoes out on somebody that's dead stationary and not moving. So that Emerald is obviously my first target. They've got rather dangerous torpedoes and are quite squashy, so we're going to have a pop at them. I'm not quite sure why they pushed in this far to the cap without really any way of getting out. Maybe they were trusting to their smoke, but that's not really something you can afford to do in an Emerald, not even when you're top tier. You really have to be a lot more cautious than that, and now that they're out of the way, you know, I can basically be, well, potentially more aggressive, but then this Fubuki turns up, so I've got to worry about their torpedoes as well. So back to the high explosive, which I think was meant more for the bow on Alba, and is actually quite useful in terms of an ammo choice just for then shooting at that Fubuki. And the Alba's actually trying to bow tank. I'm not sure that's really the best way to play in Alba, but that's what they're trying. And of course, as long as they are there, then I'm going to be surface spotted. Well, as long with the October Revolution as well, of course, for the Fubuki. So I need to not sail in nice straight lines, and I definitely need to keep my nose in towards the smoke cloud. Although once they pop out, the Fubuki actually gets spotted by... I'm not sure, actually. I mean, they fired their guns there, but I'm not sure how they were spotted coming out of the smoke cloud. Maybe they'd fired their guns previously and I missed it. So there we go, they are down. The Alba, I don't really have to worry about firing torpedoes at that angle, and they're actually backing around the corner, and I think it's just the fact that it's so relatively few of us here that's allowed us to do that. You might notice the one other battleship that was on our flank, the New Mexico, is still kind of faffing around the A-cap, and unfortunately, I mean, they've gotten themselves one kill, but at this point they are proving to be about as useful as that completely AFK October Revolution, and it's not like we can afford to have any ships not helping out right now. So I don't know if they end up taking some pot shots at the München, for example, but if they do, I'm not noticing it, and there we go, it's my double citadel that takes most of their hit points, and I might even be able to get the kill here, so that would be quite nice, because that left unchecked could be quite an annoying ship. But as you saw, it's also a very squashy ship. It is essentially something akin to like a Nürnberg at tier 8. Good rate of fire, good range, but it just falls apart like a wet paper bag if you so much as sneeze in its direction. Now somehow that Fiji that went north instead of sticking with the rest of us has managed to survive. I'm sure their natural stealth has something to do with that, but they might be spotted at the moment. But yeah, they are very low health. And it's not like the New Mex went to help them out. Like the New Mex going full speed could absolutely have gone either north or south at this point. And instead, I don't know. They decided the bad, nasty, scary ships might shoot at them, and so they were going to let their teammates do all the hard work whilst they, I don't know, played solitaire on the other screen, I guess. It's really hard to think what's going through somebody's mind when they play like that, but I don't know, I'm sure there was some kind of rationale behind it. Anyway, so the Alba peaks again, presumably to try and drop torpedoes, but given the drop angles on the Alba, they had to poke out quite far to do it, and that has proved to be their rather costly mistake. So there might well be torps in the water, and indeed there are, but it's not a big spread from the Alba, and I think in fact some of them hit the island because there's only 2 of them go floating past. And then at that point we also catch sight of one of the remaining enemy destroyers, the Udachi. Now our Jervis can barely afford to open fire at this point, although once the Udachi actually smokes up, I think they do have a go at, yeah, they have a go at firing, and there we go. Leander's Hydro picks up their torps as well, which are quite slow moving, so not too difficult to dodge for me. And there's some nice teamwork going on here, especially with the Leander, and the Jervis is actually being somewhat sensible and not trying to, you know, do silly things that would throw their ship away, as you sometimes see happening. But yeah, not so much teamwork with the New Mexico, though, who looked like they might come round south to the sea cap and then kind of clearly thought that was too scary, went back towards the A-cap and is now doing who knows what around the middle. You can hear clattering in the background, by the way. That's a cat doing cat things. What are you doing, cat? That's a roll of tape. You don't want to lick that. It's going to taste like glue. Yeah, he made a face there. Anyway, he's in one of those modes, apparently, so there might be more clattering in the background. Or I might have to edit out me shouting at him. I don't know. The fun of owning a cat. So, last 2 enemy ships. The Queen Elizabeth has very obligingly come towards us, and there is also a Mayhan, which I am quite wary of. But we've managed to now bring this back. You know, in terms of points, in terms of ships, this chunk of the team that started over on the other side has, well, more or less worked together. I mean, the Fiji went off and did their own thing and nearly got sunk as a result, but they are still alive. And the New Mex has finally made it towards the sea cap. I don't even. But, you know, we have won despite the negligible contributions of that New Mexico. So, yeah, this is one of those situations where I was quite glad to be in a top-tier ship with a heel, because it's meant I could actually do a fair bit. I could have much more of an impact than if, say, I'd been in a tier 5 battleship. But, yeah, it still makes me a bit annoyed about that new Mex, though. Especially in close games like this. Like, I know it ended up not mattering, but it might have. And sometimes just one player faffing around doing goodness knows what can end up throwing a game. I'm sure we've all had that experience. For some reason this Queen Elizabeth was firing HE at me, by the way. I'm not entirely sure why. They have 15-inch guns. Their AP could have actually done me a nasty if I'd been angled badly, or if they got lucky with the penetration. But no, they insisted on firing high explosive at me, and I really don't know why. I mean, I'm just chunking them with AP, and in fact I'm going to end up switching to high explosive just on the basis of we've won, and, you know, let's give you a taste of your own medicine with a Royal Navy battleship that can actually profitably shoot high explosive. Because for those unaware, yes, the Royal Navy battleships have the reputation of being high explosive spammers because generally the high explosive shells are quite potent. Cat, stop doing that. But the 15-inch guns in particular are outliers. So basically, Queen Elizabeth, Hood, Vanguard, Monarch, none of them are particularly effective with their high explosive. They're pretty much just standard battleship 15-inch HE. You know, they're comparable to, say, the German 15-inch HE in that regard. It really is the smaller and larger guns, which have the larger bursting charge, I guess it would be, that are the ones that are actually effective in that regard. So, finished that off with 178k and a high caliber as well as a Confederate medal. That was a pretty decent damage result. Being top tier definitely helped. The Leander was actually in second place, and the Fiji and Jervis were in third, and they were actually grouped up together, so the fact they split up like that was kind of interesting. And then the New Mexico behind that, so I guess they did do some damage despite their absolute reluctance to move away from that one cap where we all started. But I suspect that was just distance sniping using a spotter plane for the most part. So yeah, not completely useless, but my word, you know, if it come down to it, having that one player be all the way back there could maybe have made a real difference. But fortunately, it did not. So hopefully you have enjoyed my first video of 2021. I don't have any massive changes or anything planned for the channel this year, but, you know, if people have suggestions, make them down below. Why not? I'm always interested to hear how people think I'm doing with this, because, you know, outside feedback is often a kind of a useful thing, at least in moderation. So this seems like a good juncture to ask my viewers if they think I should be doing, I don't know, different things, or games they'd like me to see cover, or I don't know, whatever comes to mind, really. I'll certainly be paying some attention to the comments below this one for a while anyway, so we'll see what comes of that little thought that just popped into my head. So clearly rehearsed, as you can tell. Anyway, hopefully you have enjoyed this replay, and if you have, you can do all the usual things down underneath it, and of course, as always, stay tuned for more.